All right, welcome to my Zendikar sealed set review. You're going to find a lot of set reviews for draft, for constructed, for standard, legacy, vintage, commander, what have you, but nobody addresses sealed, which is really weird. Because if you want to top bite a PTQ, you gotta go X1 in some sort of 8 or 9 round tournament. And sealed is significantly different than draft. The format's generally a lot slower, you play more lands, and you generally don't play a lot of cards that cost less than 4 mana. There are some exceptions, and maybe this format will be like that. I'm going to go ahead and go through an entire set review. Now, I haven't extensively researched every single card in the set, so this is going to be pretty close to my first impression before the sealed events start tomorrow on Thursday the 17th. Give you a leg up on the competition if you look at this and build with your decks build your decks with these in mind, these ideas. Now, there isn't a lot of mana fixing in the set, so I'm going to preface this by saying that you're probably going to be playing a 2-color deck. Unless you're green, you can probably go 2.5 or maybe even 3 colors. If you're playing green, be looking to be a 2-color deck, and my understanding is that you're only going to get 1 double-faced card per pack. It's a 6-pack sealed, so odds are you're probably going to get 6. I'm not sure if you can get foils and maybe get 7. Who knows? But odds are you're probably going to play 2 to 3 of them. I don't know if all of them are playable yet. I haven't looked at all of them. So you're probably going to play 16 or 17 lands still. You got to be able to keep a 2-lander and not brick off. But let's go ahead and dive into the review. I'm going to go things by rarity because I feel like you're probably going to see commons far more often than you're going to see the other rarities, so we'll sort it by colors as well. I'm going to start off with the worst color in almost every sealed format, which is white. Let's go ahead and go through it, I guess, alphabetically. You should be able to see it on the screen in front of you. I'll go ahead and read out all the text, but there's not too much text in a lot of these cards. Alright, so when Angel Heart Protector enters the battlefield, target creature you control gains indestructible until end of turn. 3 mana 3/2 is like baseline for stats, 5 stat points for 3 mana. It's a common, it's an aggro card. It's interesting that it doesn't say another target creature, so it can target itself if you had haste, which I assume that there are probably cards in this set that grant haste. Probably not going to play it. Sealed is you almost always want creatures with greater health and power. 4 is generally the flashpoint on a creature having power and being able to attack. Combat tricks you generally don't play in sealed. So when you have a creature with less power than your opponent has toughness, you generally can't attack. You just get bricked really easily. And 3 power is just not where it's at. So I would probably... it discarded flash. Now we're talking a different story. Now we're talking like tier 1 common if it had flash. But as it is, it has to be done pre-combat. Might push through 2 damage if you play like a 2 mana 3/1, 2 or 3 damage, and they don't have like an X4 to block. But I'm gonna have to say no on this one. Almost certainly not gonna play it if you have it in your pool. Cliffhaven Sellsword. I guess I should preface this to say that I'm not really looking at creature types. I know that party is a thing in the format. I'm just going to assume that if it's a spell, you have 1 of the party in play, and if it's a creature, then you have 2 of the party in play, and that's kind of how I'm going to evaluate the cards. So I'm not really looking at Human Cleric thinking like, ooh, white needs a cleric to fill out all their party matters cards, so this card rises evaluation. That just doesn't happen in sealed. Sealed, most players play all the removal, and the format is extremely slow, and there's often a lot of trading, and so building a huge board to take advantage of party things is just not going to happen. Cliffhaven Sellsword, 2 mana 3/1. This is the latest iteration on unplayable 2-drops for white. I mean, other formats have featured 2 mana 3/1s that enter the battlefield and grant +2/0, or enter the battlefield and target creature gains first strike, or what have you. This card doesn't do any of that, so I would just assume that you are not gonna play this card. So, I mean, I can imagine if you're forced into playing some sort of aggro deck in sealed, but your pool is really bad, you're gonna play it. Otherwise, just put it in the trash bin. Dauntless Unity Kicker, 2 mana, kicker, 1 and a white. Creature you control plus +1 on a turn. And this spell was kicked. Those creatures get +2/+1 and it's all on a turn instead. Like I was saying earlier, combat tricks are generally not played in sealed, especially rather weak ones like this one. It's not terribly efficient for its cost on either side of it, and you're not really aggro. And unless their white has a token theme that I haven't seen yet, and I haven't looked extensively at, like if white had a ton of cards that were like raise the alarm, 2 mana, make a pair of 1/1s, or 3 mana, make 3/1/1 flyers, which they've had in the past in previous formats. I don't think they have that in this one, and since they don't, global effects like this are just not where you want to be. Disenchant, destroy target artifact enchantment, a reprint. Sealed is what people interact with is the board, and unless it's an artifact deck like artifact format like Kaladesh, you're not gonna have a lot of targets main deck, or at least targets that matter. So you just don't play this. The sideboard card only. Expedition Healer, 2 mana, 2/2. Expedition Healer. Oh, has Vigilance naturally. Okay. Has lifelink as long as you control another cleric. Again, understated. Like you want to 5 stat points are like kind of where you want to be when it comes to 2-drops, or at least having 3 power. Like at least Cliffhaven Cell. I would actually probably say that it's probably worse than Cliffhaven Cell Sword. I don't really have a lot of value in Vigilance on especially a creature with such low power and health. Lifelink, it's good. It's a good ability. I don't know. If there was a life gain matters theme in the set that was really good, I could see this card being good. In the past, in an extremely aggressive format, there was a vampire, I believe it was one of the Ixalan sets, which was 1 and a white, 2/2 lifelink. It didn't have Vigilance, it was just 2 mana, 2/2 lifelink, and that card was quite good. But that had a lot to do with the fact that it was a vampire, and there was a pretty strong like life gain matters theme going on, and him being a good creature type. So I can imagine this card being very good if clerics were supported, if life gain mattered. I doubt that in this set. Yeah, I think Bishop Soldier was the name of the card. I doubt that. This is going to be a maybe card. If we look at other cards and see that it's supported, it can maybe go up in valuation. I doubt this is a good card. Farsight Adept. Goodness gracious. When Farsight Adept enters the battlefield, you and target opponent each draw a card. 3 mana, 3/3. Okay, it's kind of weird for white to have a wizard, which I just now noticed. I did not know that before. That might matter. My evaluation of the card probably goes up a little bit knowing that this is a wizard. This might be the only wizard white has. So it'll probably like buff every other party matters thing. But like, I think in general, in a vacuum, irrespective of if wizard wasn't a thing or party wasn't a thing, I believe this is probably worse than a 3/3 no text. The problem with the color white is that it doesn't actually have inevitability, and one of the ways that white wins is your opponent stumbles on mana, or they can't cast their 6-drop because they don't have 6 lands, or they don't curve out perfectly, because pound for pound white cards are just worse than every other color's cards, and that's just like the reality of Magic. White is just there to make every other color look good, and this is a good example. I would expect that unless you have parties matters things, you would probably not play this card. If your deck was full of really good strong cards, and you could take advantage of the fact that you have more cards or equal cards, this is going to be equal cards to your opponent, and that would matter if, for instance, you were a white-green deck and you had powerful 5 and 6 drops. The odds of you actually having 5 or 6 lands on turn 5 or 6 when you play like 17 mana is actually quite low. I believe it's like around 40% to even get there. So cards like this would actually help you get those 5th or 6th lands to actually like curve out on time. And so I can imagine if you're playing that type of deck, I think in general that you should leave the Farsight Adepts in your sideboard, or better yet, probably not play white, and have your opponents play this against you, and then you play a 4 health creature, and then you be very happy. Kabira Outrider. Enters the battlefield, target creature gets +1/+1 on a turn for each creature in your party. Now this type of effect is actually a lot better than it looks. Especially if I go by the rule where you count, if it's a creature, you count parties matters as 2, and if it's a spell, you count parties matters as 1. Because this is a warrior, right? So if you can assume to have at least one other party member in play, this is +2/+2. This is a lot better than it looks, because imagine you have, for instance, a 3/2 or a 3/1, and it's getting bricked walled by like a 1/4, right? You can play this could be our Outrider to give your 3/1 or 2/2 +2/+2, and now you can attack into the 4 health creature and they're not blocking, right? And so this doesn't come into play and deal 2 damage. It often comes into play and deals 4, perhaps 5, perhaps even 6. And this is a good card. This is a good card for sure. If aggro was good, then this would be a card that I would really like to have as many as I had, many as I could hold. So this card's good. I would play it. This is going to push through a lot of damage. This is an innocuous card, and I believe that it is going to push through a lot of damage. It's a cool card to be a common. I wish it was a 4/2. If it was at 4/2, it would be insane, I think. I really wish it had aggro stats instead of just, even stats. But I like it. I like it a lot. Alright, Core Celebrant. Whenever a Core Celebrant or another creature enters the battlefield under your control, you gain... Oh, I love this card. I love it. I'm on board with this one. When sealed is generally pretty slow, and cards like Core Celebrant, it has the Magic 4 toughness, which will probably brick every creature that costs 3 or less that your opponents are going to play. It's basically a removal spell. It's a removal spell for... It's 2 and a white, destroy target creature without flying your opponent controls that cost 3 or less. Oh, by the way, gain 1 life. Oh, by the way, gain another life, or gain probably 2 more life over the course of the game. So it's probably going to be... This is what it actually is. It's 2 and a white. Destroy a non-flying creature your opponent controls with power 3 or less. Gain 3 life. That's what it actually is. And that's a good card. So, I'm on board. I'm on board. Especially if there's a life gain matters card. Now, the reason I say that... Now, my statement about what it actually is only matters if you have inevitability and you don't have to attack to one on the ground. Or you have some more like overarching like rare that you're trying to get to that just kind of like negates whatever your opponent's doing. And oftentimes, if white is your secondary color, you can do that. You can totally win in the air if you're white-blue, or if you're white-black, you can have some sort of overarching synergy that like just burns them out because it has life gain attached. It might be some life gain matters burning stuff. So this is going to be great. In the right deck, this is probably going to be one of your best cards. It's a card you're going to want to play on turn 3 like every game. So that's cool. That's cool for sure. McKinty Ox. Whenever it enters the battlefield under your control, tap target creature and opponent controls. Now this card is really good. This card has been printed in the past and under different names. I think there was some sort of unicorn in the past that was a very similar card. It might have been whenever you cast an enchantment or something, or maybe cast a creature. I'm not quite sure. But those cards can just kill from nowhere. And I think this card will also kill from somewhere. I think it's a fantastic curve topper for a red-white deck or a white-green deck. This is a good card. This is actually a win condition, which is really weird. It is rare for white to have cards this good as win conditions. Because generally white cards just suck when it comes to cards that cost more than 4 and cards that cost less than 4. But this one is the exception. Now, I don't know how many effects. In the previous Zendikars, there have been... White has kind of dipped its toe into the pool of being able to play multiple lands per turn. I don't think that's the case in this set, which is sad. I would have liked it if they could have, like, a Core Cartographer reminds... It's like a 4-mana 2/2 switch away for planes to put into play. That's the type of card they've had in the past. I don't think it's in this set. But yeah, this is a card that I could imagine even splashing into a green-red deck, sure. I could totally imagine a green X deck splashing for this card. And cards you splash for, and remember, this is kind of a rule in general for all sealed formats. Any card you splash for needs to be good on turn 6. And this is certainly a card that is good on turn 6. Because turn 6 is generally the time that you're going to have the ability to cast this. Assuming you have like 4 sources in your deck. So if you're like a green X deck, you're going to have like 2 ways to find it. and then 2 planes probably, or like a double face card in this one. Playing this on turn 6 and then playing a land to tap one of their things, that's a great card. And then threatening lethal the next turn if you tap another blocker. Mesa Lynx, as long as it's not your turn, Mesa Lynx, okay, this is... I don't know about this. I don't like it. My understanding from just looking at red is that there's actually somewhat of a lot of ping effects in this format. So I'm not on board with what X ones. This card was... Oh, there was like some sort of veteran soldier that was like 2/4 on your turn and 2/2 on your opponent's turn, and that card was great. This is kind of the opposite, and it's not great. And doesn't have, it's not a 2/2 by generic. It's not even a party member. Yeah, I'm off it. This is no good. Nahiri's Binding. Enchant creature or Planeswalker. Enchant permanent cannot attack or block, and its active abilities cannot be played. Pacifisms and arrests are typically not very good in sealed. The reason why is white and green generally have main deck ways to remove them. Main deck ways of destroying enchantments. Blue has ways of bouncing their own permanents to save them from Nahiri's Binding even like 7 turns later. Red cards generally have non-combat related like passives that it does not deactivate. And black often has ways to sacrifice their own creatures that are sitting around in play for some sort of like way to draw cards. Or some sort of like effect that's very bad for you. They consistently do this to white, where their removal spells are enchantments, are enchant creatures, and they're never good. Obviously you open it, you play it if you're playing white. You can't splash for it, it's double white. But you're not going to be happy about it. Because unlike blue dehydration type effects, let's not forget that in this set is a party members thing. So it just doesn't even stop party interactions. Yeah. So this is probably among the worst types of these types of effects they have ever made. Like Face Fetters, it was splashable and gained 4 life. Pacifism cost 2 mana. And this one is like hard to cast, 3 mana, doesn't strip creature types, doesn't tap it, doesn't remove text boxes, which other versions of this card has actually done in the past. This is just, obviously you play it if you're white, but if you're not white, I mean, you're not happy to see it. You're just not. Practiced Tactics. Choose target attacking or blocking creature. Practice Tactics deals damage to that creature equal to twice the number of creatures in your party. This card is bad. We talked about it earlier when it comes to party member stuff. If it is on spells, you count as having 1 of that type when you try to evaluate it. White always gets these types of effects too, and they're always bad. I mean, Gideon's Reproach is about the limit. Gideon's Reproach is also not good. Which was, Gideon's Reproach was 2 mana, deal 4 to an attacker or a blocker, right? One of the reasons why this is bad is party members, right? You can't even play this on turn 1 or turn 2 if you're on the draw and your opponent is like, gets an aggro like 1, 2, 3 opening. You can't even play this, right? So that's a huge strike against it. And the amount that it deals damage to checks on resolution, right? So imagine your opponent is attacking with like an X4 and you play this because you have 2 creatures in your party. Well, your opponent can play an instant that removes one of the creatures in your party. And now you threw away your card for nothing. I would think that this card is unplayable. That's just, unless there is a token theme or you can guarantee that you have at least 2 party types in play. I think this card is not a card you will be playing. Pressure points. Tap terror creature, draw a card. Never play this card. I know it looks good. Don't do it. One of the problems is it needs to... So one of the problems this card has is it needs a target. That sounds bad. That sounds like, well, why does that matter? A very common scenario, a very common theme in Sealed especially is keeping 2 landers. And keeping 2 landers and trying to draw your 3rd land, right? And like hopefully one of your next 2 Toku cards is your 3rd land. Because most decks need 3 lands to function because you generally don't play 1 or 2 drops in sealed. And that's where this card has a problem. Is if you play this card in your deck thinking like, oh, it cycles, so like if I keep a 2-lander, I can just cycle it. That's not the case. Because your opponent often will not have a 2-drop. And if you don't have a creature in play, which you probably won't, but you're playing sealed, you can't cycle this with 2 mana. If it said tap up to 1 creature, I would actually say this card might be pretty good. So you can just play it on an empty board. As is, it says tap target creature, and your opponent, they could do something to their own card, and you won't draw a card. They could sacrifice it or what have you. I mean, I don't know if there's any village rights types of effects in this format, but I would say you just never play this card. White also has a problem getting flooded. It does in every format, because it never has anything to do with that costs a lot of mana. And drawing a card is not the same as it is in other colors, because they don't have 6 and 7 drops to draw to, and their bombs are generally pretty weak. And drawing a card is actually like drawing half a card, because every land beyond your 5th is a blank. I know this is a landfall set, but I still think it applies. Vigilance, 4 mana, 2/3, landfall. Whenever land enters the battlefield under your control, put a +1/+1 counter on Prowling Felidar. I like it. It has 4 health. I like it. I like Vigilance. I like everything about this card. This is a win condition. This is great defensive. It's great offensive. It can stabilize you really well. Its only problem is that it's not a party member. But I can totally imagine this being like a 4 mana 5/6. Easily. And that's a bargain for white. That's a bargain. I'm actually surprised this wasn't a 2/2. I love this card. I'm on board. Resolute Strike. Target creature gets +2/+2 until the turn. If it's a warrior, you may attach an equipment to it. Combat tricks are almost never played and sealed. The reason why is, what would you rather have? A 3/3 and a Resolute Strike, or 2 3/3s? And the answer is you would rather have 2 3/3s. And that's kind of the way it is. That's kind of the way it is in sealed. It is, if you draw Resolute Strike and not your 3/3, then Resolute Strike's a blank, right? It doesn't do anything. If you draw your 3/3 and not Resolute Strike, you're fine. You have a 3/3. If you draw them both, you'd rather just have a pair of 3/3s. Combat tricks have always had the problem is that in Magic, now that damage on the stack is now gone. Not that I want damage on the stack to come back. You don't. But now that damage on the stack is gone, you have to play combat tricks before damage is dealt, which means you open up yourself a vulnerability to getting 1-for-2'd. And I would rather not have that problem. If your opponent has a 4/4, I would rather have a pair of 3/3s and double block than have a 3/3 and this card. So there are, I just don't want it. You don't play combat tricks in sealed. Just don't do it. They have to be really freaking good, and that one's not it. Seagate Banneret. Creatures you control get +1/+1 until turn. 1 mana 1/2. This is a reprint. It's been played before. It was bad before. I think it was bad before, and there was actually potentially a theme for it. I mean, I guess this is a warrior. Before there might have been like a 1-drop theme. I don't quite remember. I would just not play this card. So there's not really much to say about it. The card, the text is weak. The effect is weak. Shepherd of Heroes, flying. When it enters the battlefield, gain 2 life for each creature in your party. This card is great. There was a card in the past called Angel of Mercy that was 5 mana 3/3 flying, gain 3 life. That card was great. This is likely 5 mana. Now, even if it was just 5 mana 3/4 gain 2 life, this card is better than Angel of Mercy. I will think this is probably going to be 5 mana 3/4 gain 4 life, if not better than that in some scenarios. This turns into just like a fantastic card. It'll stabilize you when you're behind. It has the magical 4 health, which is super important and limited, super important and sealed. This is exciting because I was not expecting white to have playable cards, and it gets like so far I got like 6 cards that are like playable, which is that's really weird for white to have. This is also a cleric, which works with Course Telebrint to gain even more life. I'm on board. Angel of Mercy was like, it was actually so good, it was actually uncommon in other formats, which was the 5 mana 3/3 gain 3 life flying. This is a common. This is great. Smite the Monstrous, destroy target creature with power 4 or greater instant. You're probably not going to play this card. If you're stretching the bottom of the barrel, you can play it. You probably don't. If there are cards like Battle Rattle Shaman, which is like 4-mana 2/2 target creature at the beginning of combat, target creature gets +2/+2, or if there was like Infantry Veteran, which is like a 1-mana 1/1 that taps to give an attacking creature ++1. If there were cards that were like for freebie, by the way, I can target my opponent's creatures just as a freebie, and you can pump their power, and then you can smite them. Then this card becomes like, yeah, you auto play this, right? But I don't think there are a lot of abilities in the set that do that. And equipment can only really be on your own creatures. So you can't equip your opponent's cards. If you could, this card would be great. I'm going to say that this is sideboard material only if you see cards that are good enough to kill. That's a no-go on that one. Tazim Raptor, 2 and white. Enters the battlefield, you may to return a land you control to its owner's hand. This card looks like it would be good. It's not. As I was saying earlier, I think you're only going to get 1 per pack on double face cards. You're going to open up 6. And you're probably going to play maybe 3. And you're not going to play 1 on turn 1 and then pick it up on turn 3. And 3-mana 2/2s have historically never been playable in sealed. 3-mana 2/2 flyers. This is also not a party member. This is a trap card. This is a skill testing card. You should probably never play this card. If your deck is aggro and needs evasion, I can imagine you would play this. Like if you're playing a Boros deck or a white green deck, maybe. If you have enough equipment for it, maybe. I doubt it. Stay away. Like, how embarrassing is it if you play Tazim Raptor, you attack twice, you bring it into 16, and then you just play Shepherd of Heroes? You're just like, what is this card? Why do I have it in my deck? It's not a good look for white commons. We look at I guess we can zoom this in a little bit. As far as commons goes, we've got 7 you're happy to play. These are all pretty good cards. These are all like pretty good cards I'd be happy to play, but having 7 decent, I mean, Expedition Healer is still like, we're still out on that one. Like 6.5 decent white ones and 12 like no thanks. That's not a good look.